How you doing, guys? Today, wow, we are almost to the finish line. I mean, it's literally, you can taste it almost. Fitted the hood to the tractor. In a couple of videos back, we rebuilt the kill switch, the original brass kill switch. So that's all set to go. Everything has been drilled and it's fine-tuned. Oh, well, I shouldn't say fine-tuned. It's all set to go. What we're going to do today is we're going to fine-tune the hood, get the hood fully installed, get the steering wheel, basically finish the tractor in theory. I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm well known for projects just sitting around and nothing happening to them. So what we're going to do is we're going to epoxy in a couple welded rings underneath the hood. Not original, but I want it so I can just run my kill wire underneath the hood, real nice and clean, and then down to the motor. The points contact lug is actually right here on the magneto, and nothing against other people, you know, they have wires running this way, that way, up, down, around, hanging, which is fine. That's their gig. For me, I'd rather make it not original and clean than have it just hanging around. I'm going to put a couple contacts, or I should say a couple connectors here and there in the small wiring harness we're going to make. So that way when we take the hood off, I could just unplug it, you know, unplug the wire, undo the bolts, and lift the whole thing up. I don't have to take the switch out, do this, do that. You know, try to make it as easy as possible. So the first thing I washed, got all the dust off it, and I hit it with some wax. And I think it looks great, so hopefully you do too. So let's get this thing flipped over. Let's figure out where we're gonna epoxy those D-rings into the bottom of the hood. We gotta let those cure. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our kill switch. We'll line it up. We'll drill the holes, install it, and then we'll make the wiring harness. I went to the hardware store and picked up these little welded rings. I tried making a couple rings for myself, but I was like, dude, spent like an hour. They're all crooked and stupid. So I said, forget it. We're just going to go to the hardware store and get two of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to epoxy them like right in this position, right in the center. One right about there. And then this one, I made a mark with a Sharpie where the back of the motor is. And I'm using this as the back of the motor. So that way I could drop the wire down in such a way that it's not going to be as easily seen. So I'm going to probably like right about there. Whoops, sorry, right about there. And that'll give me a nice, you know, clean way for the wire to run and then run down to the magneto. The opposite side of the switch, I'm going to go to one of these bolts that hold the hood to the hood stand. I'll just make sure they're clean and then making good contact. And then when we press that switch, it'll ground the points to the hood stand. All right, so I'm just going to get a little sandpaper, rough this up. I'm not going to get crazy with it, just as long as they're in the center somewhere. Tape them, you know, mix up the epoxy, tape them into place, and then be done with it. Every once in a while when I do something on a project, I say to myself, why did I do that again? I don't know why I did that. This is one of those times. What a colossal mess. This ring fell over into the epoxy and it got all over the place. And this one here went okay because I learned on the first one. But that little statement about other people and their wires just hanging around, and well, it came back to bite me in the you-know-who because this was a disaster averted, but man, what a mess. All right, we're just going to let these things cure, and then we'll get to that kill switch. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start to install the brass kill switch. This is the one that I repaired in one of my prior videos. It is the original kill switch to this tractor. Kind of the interesting thing when you look at these tractors, be it seniors or RJ35s or even RJ58s, there's like these little nuances about each and every single one of them, which was interesting because, you know, they built these things in a garage. You know, they didn't, these tractors weren't being built in the factory yet. It wasn't until what, 60, maybe. I think they actually moved into a new building. I can't remember all the history on it, but in 55, 56, 57, they were still building them in the garage. And if you take a look, even though I filled in the original holes where the kill switch was, you can see that, oops, sorry, they're not even like straight across. So from the factory, this thing was like that, which is kind of funny, but we're not doing that. No, we're gonna straighten it out, make those screws look nice and level. I'll make sure that they're real, you know, it'll visually be straight. So when you push that button, it'll look nice and clean. So let me go ahead, line this up, make some marks, and then we're gonna test drill a piece of wood for the screws, because I really don't want to have to try to repair this if I mess it up. I think that looks pretty good. I went ahead, lined it up, took my marker, made a couple marks, then took a small drill bit and just made a couple little witness marks for it. And then I can line the switch up. So that looks perfect. And I don't know if I can show you, but if we look in there, ooh, look at them rings. I know I can't really show you because it won't focus, but they're like perfectly in line. So even though it was a disaster, it worked out. So we're good. All right, I'm gonna go get a piece of wood. Oh, let me show you what I'm gonna do here. As you know, or as I said in one of my prior videos, the switch was originally pop riveted into the hood. And you can see here's the prototypes and the errors in order to finish that switch. But I have these old screws. I believe these came off an RJ35, to be honest with you. I think this is what held a brass kill switch to the metal hood of an RJ35. I think it came from the bezel that I used, the second bezel I used in order to fix this switch. So instead of pop riveting it, I am going to screw it in here. But I'm going to get a piece of wood and I'm going to drill some holes in the wood with various drill bits to see which one these screws fit the best, because this is kind of a one-shot deal, you know. I want to be able to just kind of screw this in, tighten it down, and be done with it. I might put a little touch of super glue on these things so that way they don't come out. I don't know yet, but the biggest thing is getting the right size hole in the fiberglass. So let me play around with some drill bits and some wood and see if we can figure out which one is the best one to use. The drill bit I used to make these little witness marks for the screws actually ended up being, or I think is probably the best one to use. It's just about the size of the, oops, let's see if we can get this thing to focus. Guess not, sorry, but it's just about this, there you go, just about the thickness of the inner shaft of the screw. I went ahead and test drilled it into a little bit of wood, and this thing has just enough bite that I think it's going to be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead, cross my fingers, cross my toes, and I'm going to go ahead and drill these two holes and see if we can get that screw in there. Installed, and I think it looks pretty darn good, pretty straight. I'm real happy with that. I did have to massage it in there. It's definitely an interesting setup, but it is definitely solidly mounted. That thing is not coming apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all this stuff, move this to the side, clean up my workbench, because we got to do a little bit of wiring. We got to make a jump wire from one pole to here for the ground, and then we got to make the main wire that goes all the way up into the magneto. So let's clean up, let's get some wiring out, get the soldering iron out, because we're going to solder the ends on and heat shrink everything, and hopefully we'll be in a position to install it. to wire the kill switch, this is how I'm going to do it. One lug of the switch is going to come around and hit either, oops, excuse me, this bolt or that bolt that holds the hood to the tractor itself. So we'll have a small little jump wire that goes to that. The next wire off the other lug is going to run along the top of the hood, come down somewhere around here. It's going to get wrapped around, and then it's going to come out right here and then hit this ignition lug. The size that I'm going to use is this guy. I don't even know it. I think the little card. Oh no, is it there? No, the little card is missing. I forgot. It's for the small wire. I think maybe that's 3/16. I don't even know. But that fits real nice and clean onto that lug. One of the things I'm going to do, or one of the things I do is I cut this plastic stuff off because it looks horrid. And then I'm going to solder it to the piece of black wire that I have. And a little bit of heat shrink. We'll just clean it up, make it look real nice. And then, you know, overall, it should be just a clean install. For the switch, I'm going to use the same size. I'm going to bend this 90 degrees so that way it fits nice and tight on the switch, and it'll fit through the hole. And then that's it. That's just how it is. I'm going to go ahead and screw these lugs, or screw these eyelets, I should say, onto the back of the switch before I put it in. So that way I'm not trying to put those small little tiny screws into the back of the switch up underneath the hood. It's just going to be stupid. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and let's make up the first wire. First solder connection is made. As you can see, fairly clean solder joint. I went ahead and I filed it down so that way it's nice and smooth, no sharp edges. The only thing that stinks is I don't have any heat shrink tubing small enough in order to shrink around this small wire, or this small gauge wire. I'm going to make two of these. One, both are going to have the small eyelet to screw onto the back of the switch. One will have a bigger eyelet on it, a 1/4 inch eyelet to go to the bolt on the hood. The other one's going to have a female end soldered onto it. And what that is going to be for is if I ever have to remove the hood, instead of monkeying around with the small, tiny little 436 screws that are on the back of the switch, I could just undo the bolt, which I'm going to have to do anyways. That eyelet will come off. And then I'll have the male-female connector right here. I could just unplug that, and then I could take the whole hood off and leave the switch in place, leave all the contacts in place, because you're not going to want to mess around with two 436 size screws. I'm just not going to get involved with that. So I'm going to go ahead and run to, maybe I'll go to HD and see if they have small gauge heat shrink tubing. What size is this anyways? This is, what's gauge is this? I don't even know. We're in the tab. Oh, duh, right there. It's been a long day. 2216. All right, let's go get some heat shrink tubing. I needed all this crud to make two wires. Everything's all heat shrunk and clean. I'm pretty happy with the way this has come out. Got my eyelets in place. They're all tightened down. You can see everything's got heat shrink tubing on it. The ends are pretty simple, I guess. This is set up for one of the bolts that hold the hood on. That's going to be the ground, I guess, the theoretical ground, because this side, I put some heat shrink tubing around this, so that way it kind of like makes it not weather tight, but just helps protect if there was ever a chance of something touching it, to ground out the points. It's just covered up. I'll put the male end on the other piece of the wire, but that's all got heat shrink in it. And let's go over here, let's take a test fit. Let's see if this stuff, I haven't done this yet, so I am trying to do it with one hand, so just bear with me. So that goes in, this goes in. Where's the top? That's the bottom. This would be the top. Whoops, sorry, I'm like not even anywhere close in frame. Sorry about that. Yep, everything fits in the hole, mint. All right, I got to make the wire from the ignition lug right here. I'm going to get a small eyelet, solder that on, heat shrink it, And then I got to figure out my length as to where up to here do I want to put that male end. All right, let me get that done, and then we'll start, theoretically fitting the hood on for good. So with the die grinder or the angle grinder and the sanding disc, I just took the rust off the back of the hood stand, off of this particular bolt, because that's where I want the ground to be. So what I do is I pinched this just in the bell housing or the back of the transmission. It's just pinched there. I got this probe jammed into the wire. We have nothing, but we're going to go up here. I'm going to go ahead and push the switch, hold it down. There you go. Wide open. There it is in the out position, not depressed. We go ahead, we push that in. Back to zero. Back to zero. So the switch works, it's grounded. All right, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up because I still have to put all of the jazz in the front before we can lock this thing all down. Actually there's one more part to put on it, and I'll show you in a second. Cannot believe this is done. Got the escutcheon, starter, pulley, and grass screen in place. I did get these old panhead brass screws off of eBay. Guy sells all old hardware, so I got it from him, and I think they look the part. I really like it. I also used the screws right here for the back of the hood, so it's got a pretty good clean look to it. There's the kill switch that I repaired. Oh, and then the steering wheel. This is the steering wheel I've had on the tractor. It is, it's just a weathered Scheller wheel that's correct for a senior. Well, I've had this one in stock for quite a while. This is original. This came out of a Crosley car, which is the exact same steering wheel, but you can see it's got like no use. It's never been in the weather. Somebody did have a suicide knob on it, which, by the way, I'm going to look for a vintage suicide knob. I'm going to put it back on because I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, there it is. That's done. Everything's tightened down. I checked the kill switch again. It's all done. Tightened the air cleaner down. It's fine. Gas cap looks beautiful, perfect. The grass screen, the pulley's pretty much centered right in the center of the grass screen. So when you look at the front of the tractor, it looks the part. So what's the last piece? One of the things that some people ask me to do is sign a tractor when I sell it. I don't take any of my videos down, so tractors that you've seen on this channel have probably been sold. I leave them up, and then some people actually call me and say, hey, look, I bought this tractor, I was told it was yours, what did you do to it? And I just refer them back to the videos. The other thing too is I like to just personalize my tractors, that it's mine. I did the restoration. So I don't want to do anything evasive to the tractor, like it's mine. So on this tractor, I picked a part that wouldn't be that evasive, and something that could be theoretically replaced pretty easily. And what I decided to do is to replace this, which is the cover plate for the clutch. And what I've done is I went to Evil Bay, as I always do, and I bought another one. And there it is. I didn't record the painting of this because, I'll be honest, the painting videos, nobody watches them. So if you're interested in how I do this, which is with all duplicolor spray paints, they're all right there. This is the part I decided to change and make it mine. So everybody knows this is my senior. VinsRJ, it says 2025, and there's my signature, and it's all buried under clear. So I painted each piece individually, the red, the white, the blue, the white stars, the gold around the edges. So this is the last piece. I think it looks pretty dang good. And we're gonna go ahead and, whoopsie daisy, we're gonna put this right on there like that. I just gotta tighten down those screws. And once those screws are tightened down, that's it. My senior is done. Next video, we'll do a before and after, and you'll see what kind of wreck I started with 7.5 years ago and where we are today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all the individuals that watched my videos on the resurrection, and it really was a resurrection of this senior. It was challenging. It took a lot of time and effort to think of the different aspects that I needed to fix. I will thank the individuals that made it possible that this tractor could be finished in my before and after video. So until then, as always, thank you very much. Like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day.